story of Tamiment Resort, located near Bushkill Falls in the Poconos, starts in an unlikely fashion. It was founded in 1921 as Camp Tamiment by the Rand School of Social Science, a socialist institution in New York City, who at the time found themselves with one very large problem. They were out of money. The institution needed funds to pay for its scholarship programs after costly court battles with the state of New York's Lusk Committee for participating in alleged subversive activities. In 1919, Rand's executive secretary, Bertha Mailey, visited the International Ladies Garment Workers Union's Unity House retreat near Bushkill Falls. Inspired by what she saw, she immediately put down a deposit on 2,100 acres of land adjoining the ILGWU's retreat, with plans to build a camp along a similar line. Tamiment was originally envisaged as the center of an educational and outreach program by the Rand School. In 1922, Mailey referred to the camp as an inspiration, and by 1923 it was turning a profit, funding between 2/3 and 3/4 of the school's operating budget. In the 1930s, the Tamiment Playhouse was opened to promote education in the performing arts, and it would become known as the Poconos Boot Camp for Broadway, attracting performers and writers both aspirational and professional from the city. Tamiment would host such talents as Barbara Cook, Carol Burnett, and Bea Arthur. Woody Allen acted and directed for the first time at Tamiment. Once Upon a Mattress was first presented at Tamiment in 1958, before going on to become one of the most frequently produced musicals in the United States. While Tamiment ostensibly shared a common political and social focus as its founding organization, it ultimately was established as a separate entity, under the auspices of the People's Educational Camp Society. While PECS committed to following Rand's ideology, the profits generated from the camp gradually influenced board members to turn the facility into what began to appear more and more like a regular vacation resort. Political subjects were downplayed, while less controversial activities like swimming, tennis, and golf were promoted. In 1947, the resort opened a golf course designed by Robert Trent Jones. By the end of the Second World War, Tamiment had become a premier vacation destination for the emerging American middle class in and around New York and Philadelphia. However, this success would attract the attention of the IRS, who argued that Tamiment was operating as a vacation resort, not an educational camp. In 1963, PECS lost its appeal to retain tax-exempt status for the facility, even going so far as to move the Rand School's library to the premises in the attempt. Ultimately, the library ended up at NYU, and PECS was forced to divest itself of the resort in 1965. This marked the beginning of Tamiment's fully commercial history, and PECS, the ostensibly socialist former operators, had ironically left behind one of the largest and most profitable vacation resorts then operating in the country, including over 150 buildings, 300 employees, a theater that could seat 1,000 people, and a dining room that could seat 1,200. Tamiment's reputation as a premier venue for the performing arts would continue through the 1970s, playing host to Joan Rivers, Frankie Valli, and Gladys Knight and the Pips. It was in the 1970s that Tamiment made the leap into winter sports, becoming a true four-season resort, adding skiing to its many attractions in 1972, converting several fairways in the golf course into ski slopes in the winter, and opening the well-appointed clubhouse as a lodge to skiers. In 1982, Las Vegas entertainer Wayne Newton purchased the resort for $15 million, with the intention of making it the flagship of his new system of national timeshare properties. But by 1987, Tamiment was on the market again. The resort's best days were clearly behind it. The Playhouse closed in 1976. In the 1980s, cheap air travel meant that the Poconos were no longer the vacation destination they once were for New Yorkers. Finally, in 2005, the ailing resort was sold to developers Greystone Capital. The firm immediately auctioned off the facility's contents and then demolished the resort's buildings with the intention of building condominiums on the property. However, no development materialized, and the property, once considered to be a pillar of the Poconos tourist industry, remains vacant today. Hey everybody, it's Avery Zucco, and welcome to another Lost Ski Area tour. This time we're taking a look at Tamiment Resort near Bushkill Falls in the Poconos. So Tamiment has got a pretty long history. Skiing only started here in 1972, which is a pretty long time ago, all things considered, but the resort itself is got this long, very, unique history that's really interesting to look at when you're looking at the history of the Poconos in general and the history of summer resorts and vacationing in the Poconos. But the ski history starts in 72, after Tamiment has become a fully commercial resort, and this is one of their moves to add more amenities and make the place more of a four-season resort. The property is really, really large. It's a 2,100 acre property. This is part of the pump system for the snowmaking, either the snowmaking or the irrigation for the golf course, or both. I think they were kind of used, parts of the systems were used for the same thing. I don't know if there's two independent systems or if they're all integrated together. But the property is really large. The ski area itself was on part of the golf course, which is what we're walking towards now. If you're basically behind me now, is the parking lot and the lake, and we're looking towards the golf course right now. And then to my left, which I think I will look up there at some point, you can see the clubhouse on top of the hill there. That would have doubled as the lodge in the winter. And it was also, I think, they had dining there year-round. That's pretty much the only major structure that's left of the resort. There's a couple other buildings. A couple of them even look like they're some of the more historic buildings, dating back to when it was Camp Tamiment all the way back in the 20s. But the vast majority of everything was demolished after the resort was sold in 2005. Now, the ski area closed in 2003. The resort closed in 2003 also. The golf course stayed open, which is why the clubhouse was kept, is that they kept the golf course in operation for a number of years after the resort was closed and demolished. And I think the idea was that they wanted to keep the golf course as part of the community that they were going to build around it. They were going to build kind of like a vacation home condominium community, but that never went anywhere. So this is the bottom of the chairlift. Is the drive terminal for a hall double chair installed in 1972. It is in pretty bad shape because there was a fire in 2012, which damaged the chairlift. I'm not sure if in the course of the fire they cut the hall line, or if they did that after, or what the deal was. You can see it's on rails. That's really typical of these early hall chairlifts, or the drive. The whole drive assembly that you're looking at was on rails. It was on like a rail car, and then it was tensioned with a counterweight behind. And this is the loading area. And the portal tower. Looking up the lift line. And you can see it's just going up the side of the golf course. And the slope was over there on the left. Okay, so on the other side of the bottom of the chairlift, there's more. I don't know if this was part of the snowmaking system or not. I don't think this was. I think this was just for the golf course or something to do with the water system for the resort. I really don't know these things. So I'm really just speculating here. Whatever this building was, I'm not sure. It's got these really crazy crisscrossing pipes all over the floor. I didn't think this was anything to do with the snowmaking system, just because it looks a little bit too elaborate. unless it was all part of the same system. But it was a pretty small ski area, and given the time period where it was built, the early 70s, the other snowmaking systems that I've seen that were installed around that same time period are pretty rudimentary. They're pretty small. They don't have like a big elaborate set of network of pipes and things like that. So I'm not really sure. But anyway, I was walking up the lift line. This is the golf cart path for the golf course, and because the haul line jumped some of the towers, a bunch of the chairs are just laying here on the ground, and you can see the electrical hookup there for one of the snow guns, I guess. And the haul line is just on the ground. And so some of the lower towers here, the line is totally jumped off. But some of the towers further up, it's just draped over because there's no tension. And you can see there's just chairs. All the chairs are just left here. They're just sitting on the ground. There's another electrical hookup. And this is the part where you can just see the cable is just draped. And the chairs are still attached and they're still hanging there. So this is part of the snowmaking system. This is one of the hydrants. And you can see these running up the lift line. So I think they would have blown snow onto the adjacent part of the golf course to make I guess 1 or 2 slopes. It's all wide open. It's basically just a big field. So there wasn't really any variation in different trails or anything like that, I don't think. And the pitch is all pretty much the same. It's very easy. And I don't think they had any other lifts besides the double lift, because the whole area is basically a beginner area. I don't think there was any reason for them to put in a beginner toe or anything like that. At least I haven't seen any evidence that there was one. And this is a pretty elaborate upper terminal. They've got like the whole terminal house thing here. It's all roofed over. And the operator's shack there is pretty substantial. And they have a cement ramp here for the unload area. And so skiing was really just one of many activities that Tamiment offered. It was really, by the 70s, more of a four-season resort. Um, Skiing was kind of just not really maybe one of the main activities. I think it was more well known for the golf course and especially for the live performances that they had in the 60s and 70s. By the time you get around to the 1980s, things are starting to go downhill. The Poconos just aren't the kind of vacation destination that they used to be, and things kind of just slowly go downhill. By the time you get to the early 2000s, the resort's really on its last legs, and it will close in 2003. So what we're looking at now is the few kind of structures that were remaining. This is all part of the golf course. And then looking out over the golf course, and on the right there you can see where the slope was for the ski area. So it's sort of the rightmost part of that big open field. And then this is the clubhouse / lodge. And you can still just see, although it's very overgrown now, where that kind of elaborate water feature was out in front of the clubhouse. They had this modern kind of stone set of ponds and waterfalls and this big water feature here. It's all filled in and grown over now. And I'm not sure when this was built, the clubhouse was built. I imagine it was built, it was either built in the late 40s along with the golf course, which was built in 1947, or a little while after that, maybe the 1950s. Although I do imagine it was renovated over the years. It does have a kind of mid-century feel to it. This is one of the, I think, dining halls I think it was used for at one point in time. Got some ski poster up there. And this was like the pro shop for the golf course before it closed. Again, I think the only reason they left this place standing was because they thought that they were going to keep the golf course, and sort of use this as a clubhouse for the resort, or not the resort, but for the sort of condo community that they were going to build. And then that never panned out. This is the bar. Well, bar looks like it's from the 80s or something. It does have the wood paneling in the back. That's probably original. Well, maybe not original. It could be from the 60s or 70s. And this is another one of the banquet rooms. Look at these really cool light fixtures. It's all totally dilapidated now. And this is all that's left. Pretty much. This place was sprawling. It was huge. It has its own water tower that you can see from the road. It was basically its own town. It was just this big vacation resort town, essentially, in the 50s and 60s and 70s. It was really a destination for a lot of people. And sadly, there's just nothing really left now. And if you look out over the rest of the area, it's all been like totally erased. It's just a big giant open field. Everything was pretty much razed to make way for condominiums that were never built. Tamiment's story is really the story of, vacation resorts in the Poconos in general. It's a product of a bygone era. It's really a product of the post-war boom in the United States, and how that changes in the 80s and 90s, and there aren't really many places like this left. And so that is what remains of Tamiment Resort in the Poconos. I hope you found this walkthrough informative. If you've got any information or any memories about Tamiment Resort, feel free to leave them down in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and if you want to show your support for more of these Lost Ski Area videos, you can do that by leaving a like or subscribing to this channel. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.